No, that's fine.
The closer to the front, the less chance you'll sit in somebody's pew.
Or,
Closer to the front, the less chance you will sit in somebody's pew.
On your back. Oh, it's better. I like your hair, it's pretty. Well, something wasn't enough. Anyway, I should, so that is
set out and I forgot. So I told you a long time ago, I asked him a long time ago if you'd like the introduction was for Parks. And he said yes. And I just, my Parks. So anyway, so I did. So I'll try to remember. I'll put an hour.
Sure, I'll be around, even when I'm not up here.
Oh, you remember? I gave you.
Triumph? I haven't gone to it. I just can't play it myself. I'm very bad.
I thought the grand part was nothing.
It's not that hard to do. And I'm very
It was 94 years album of sevens. And amazing.
Well, maybe we'll
Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. And we do welcome you to First Unitarian Church of Toledo. I'm Reverend Tim T.K. Barger. I'm the senior minister here. Today, I'm easing back into the swing of things by being the service associate while Judy Troutman will preach today. And we will have our flower ceremony, an example of our returning to our roots, you might say, as flowers have roots. And we're going to be looking at the roots of Unitarian Universalism, especially through the summer, in which we will have a series of sermons on each of the principles and each of the sources. So this summer, you might consider coming here on Sundays as well. I do, again, want to welcome you. This is a congregation with many things going on, and I hope that you will look for things that you can do, and if it's something that you want to do and we don't have the proper outlet, perhaps you can make that outlet as well and make us a more thriving church. I do want to say that for many of you, I look a little different from when you last saw me. I just want to say that this is health related and the outlook for my health is very good. And at some point in the next few months, this peach fuzz will grow out, but I've been told that I pretty much have to have short hair from now on for domestic bliss, if I can put it that way. Now, let's move to our opening words. These are by Elena Westbrook. A speckled egg and leaves inside of a bird's nest. When all around us, voices are raised in anger, hatred spilling into the streets and sparking more hatred. Sometimes the best we can do is to sink our hands into the soil. Let the fights over attractions ebb away, flow like water into the earth. Fill your fingers with dirt that is itself the product of rocks worn to powder over millennia, leavened with particles of other lives. Lives of leaves and vegetables and other animals, once as warm and active as you are now. Everything dies and returns to its source, breaks down into the ingredients of some new life. Bits of humus, squirming bacteria, a tiny egg. This is real. The sun warms on your back. The soil cool under your bare feet. A tiny new stem that will unfurl to grow a sweet red tomato. And the hand of a friend gently helping you to rise. Even on our most difficult days, we can touch the soil and be grateful for the earth and the love that sustains us. And now I'm going to back up a moment because what I neglected to do was to share announcements. One announcement is that the Victorian High Tea is scheduled, I believe, for this coming Saturday, May 7th. And please look for details. I believe the order of service has some, and please sign up for that. The other announcement is we have posted on our bulletin board an obituary for Naomi Twining. Naomi was a long-time Toledo Unitarian Universalist, has been associated with, I believe, every congregation in the area. And for a time, she was the historian of this congregation. And we remember Naomi today. Now for our chalice lighting.
Since it's May 1st, I thought it would be interesting if we thought of our chalice as a Beltane fire, which are being lighted all over the globe by pagans everywhere. And there's a lovely dance of universal peace in honor of the Beltane fires, and I'll attempt to sing it. The wheel of the earth is turning, and the Beltane fires are burning. So give your hand and take your brand to kindle your own heart's yearning, to kindle your own heart's yearning. And now may we recite together the covenant of our congregation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our opening hymn today is number 346. Come sing a song with me. The words will be on the screen, number 346. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I may know your heart. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of joy and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I may know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. I'll bring a song of joy and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I may know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I may know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
In place of story time today, we're having our annual flower ceremony. Congregants here in person brought flowers with them. For you watching on YouTube, join in as you can, perhaps with flowers in your home or by imagining you're here and taking a flower. We have enough for sharing. And some of you might have come in after the service began and still have flowers with you. When it's time to come get your flowers, please bring your flower, put it in a vase, and take another one with you. And I'll begin the ceremony with Norbert Tropics' consecration of the flowers. Whenever Norbert Tropic, who originated the flower ceremony, conducted his flower ceremony in Prague, which then was part of Czechoslovakia, he would say this proverb as he consecrated the flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Now, Jenny.
Good morning. Our story today is called The Flower Communion, a Service of Celebration for Religious Liberals by Reginald Zatoli. The flower ceremony was created by Norbert Tropic, who lived from 1870 to 1942 and who founded the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. He introduced this special service to that church on June 4th, 1923, 99 years ago. Next year, our flower ceremony will be through the roof. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely together. The format had to be one that would not alienate any who had forsaken other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service, with bread and wine, was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of the countryside for elements of a ceremony, a communion, which would be genuine to them. This simple service was the result. It was such a success that it was held yearly just before the summer recess of the church. The flower ceremony was brought to the United States in 1940 and introduced to the members of our Cambridge, Massachusetts church by Dr. Tropic's wife, Maya V. Tropic. Maya was from Czechoslovakia, but had met Norbert in New York City while he was studying for his PhD, and it was at her urging that Norbert left the Baptist ministry and turned to Unitarianism. The Tropics returned to Czechoslovakia in 1921 and established the dynamic liberal church in Prague. Maya Tropic was ordained in 1926. It was during her tour of the United States that Maya introduced the flower ceremony, which had been developed at the Prague church, at the Unitarian church in Cambridge. Unfortunately, Maya was unable to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II. And it was not until the war was over that Norbert Tropic's death in a Nazi concentration camp was revealed. From this beginning, the service has spread to many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations and has been adapted along the way. People are asked to bring a flower of their choice, either from their own gardens or from the field or roadside. When they arrived at church, a large vase stood waiting at the vestibule, attended by 2 young members of the church school. Each person was asked to place their own flower in the vase. This signified that it was by their own free will that they joined with the others. The vase that contained all of the flowers was a symbol of the United Church Fellowship. The young attendants helped with the arrangement of the bouquet. Later, they carried the vase up to the front of the auditorium and placed it on a table there. Dr. Tropics then said a prayer, after which he walked over and consecrated the flowers while the congregation stood. The two attendants then took the vase back out into the vestibule. After the service, as people left the church, they went to the vase and each took a flower from the vase other than the one that they had brought. The significance of the flower ceremony is that as no two flowers are alike, so no two people are alike, yet each has a contribution to make. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower, and thus it is with our church community. It would not be the same without each and every one of us. Thus, this service is a statement of our community. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in our search for truth, disregarding all that might divide us. Each person takes home a flower brought by someone else, thus symbolizing our shared celebration in community. This ceremony, what some call a communion, of sharing, is essential to a free people of a free religion.
The flower ceremony prayer, adapted from a prayer for this ceremony by Norbert Fabian Tropics, adapted. In the name of providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister, lover and loner, what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real siblings, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us from each other. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen.
We won't wait until the end of the service, like the Prague ceremony, but we will distribute the flowers now so you can hold them or have them with you throughout today's service. Please come up and take a flower, a different one from flowers that you brought.
Please join me in this litany to celebrate our flower ceremony. Our response is, "May our lives bloom like flowers." Each of us is a flower with a delicate beauty uniquely our own. We may be like sunflowers, turning always towards the light. May our lives bloom like the flowers. We may be like night blooming cereus, only displaying our fragrant petals when it is dark and we think no one can see. May our lives bloom like the flowers. We may be hothouse flowers, far from our native lands, cautiously tended within a harsh and unfamiliar climate. May our lives bloom like the flowers. We may be gray-headed like dandelions, eager to launch the new generation with the first strong gust of wind, past our own bright youth, but ready to pass our wisdom on in precious gossamer-carried seeds. May our lives bloom like the flowers. Some of us sometimes spring up overnight and fade in the hot glare. May our lives bloom like flowers. Some of us sometimes are roses, slowly assembling petal after tightly wrapped petal and revealing our full glory only when everything is in place. May our lives bloom like the flowers. Sometimes we are roadside weeds, loveliness bursting improbably from the dust and debris. May our lives bloom like the flowers. May we offer our beauty with the simplicity of flowers, expecting no recognition, hoping for nothing, giving out of what we are and knowing it is enough. May our lives bloom like the flowers. Amen.
The ceremony is concluded, but the flowers stay with us. May all of our lives bloom like flowers.
Please join us in number 163 for the earth forever turning. Number 163.
We come to a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. And we come, each of us, with our own joys and sorrows, our gains and our losses. We keep in mind the loss of our church friend, Naomi Twining, and other people that have recently been lost to us. But we also bring joys, and we also bring hope. The meditation prompt today will be Earth Day Prayer by Laura Horton Ludwig. Spirit of life, spirit of earth, spirit of all that breathes and all that is, we love you. We love this planet and its people and its beings. We love this interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We love it all, and we want it all to be well and blessed and healthy. But we are human, and as a people, our hearts are still small. So often, our love and our sincere desire for the well-being of all is not yet enough to restrain our collective desire for more for ourselves, more money, more power, more things. So often we act in the service of that desire for more in ways that harm our fellow humans and the countless beings with whom we share this earth. And so often, even when we would do otherwise, we feel powerless. The problems are so big, the scale so enormous. What can one person or one small group really do? But today, let our prayer be for hope and commitment to stay in the struggle and to do what is right as best we can each day, and to love you, spirit of earth and ocean, stars and rocks, beings of every kind, not least our human neighbors, to love this glorious whole as we love ourselves, for we are you and you are us. Blessed be. Now we will have a moment of silence.
Jane Goodall says, probably the question I am asked more often than any other is, do you honestly believe there is hope for our world, for the future of our children and grandchildren? And I am able to answer yes. I believe we still have a window of time during which we can start healing the harm we have inflicted on the planet. But that window is closing. If we care about the future of our children and theirs, if we care about the health of the natural world, we must get together and take action now, before it is too late.
Hope for our vulnerable planet. We tend in our modern Western culture to dilute very important words. Love, an extremely complex and nuanced emotion, is often diminished to only a rom-com level. We often take the passion out of the word compassion, and we take the power out of the word hope. Jane Goodall, in the Book of Hope, A Survival Guide for Trying Times, defines hope so well. She says, hope is often misunderstood. People tend to think that it is simply passive wishful thinking. I hope something will happen, but I'm not going to do anything about it. This indeed is the opposite of real hope, which requires action and engagement. By this definition, hope is essential to our very survival. Despair is not an option. Jane's book, co-written in interview style with Douglas Carlton Abrams, is well worth a read. I cannot begin to share in this sermon all the inspiration it provides. I have had the privilege of hearing Jane in person on several occasions. She is an amazing speaker who, even in her 90s, presents faultlessly without reading. I can't do that. The book gives an insight into her early life as a courageous observer of chimpanzees in Africa. In her day, it was unthinkable that a young woman could, with only her mother as companion, survive in the wilds of Africa as she patiently watched the chimpanzees until they trusted her. But today, I just want to share the 4 reasons that she has hope, despite the dire situation of climate change and the perilous loss of animal and plant species. If we can appreciate these reasons for hope and respond by each doing our part to redress the ways we are destroying our planet home, the book will have served its purpose. Jane feels it's not too late, but that action is urgently needed. Reason for hope number 1, the amazing human intellect. Jane considers that it was the explosion of intellect that took an unexceptional species of prehistoric apes and turned them into self-appointed masters of the world. She credits the development of language to be the critical distinction. At a point of our evolution, we developed the ability to communicate with words and therefore teach about things not present and pass on wisdom gained from past experiences to others. Language, goal setting, and hope are all centered in the prefrontal cortex, which is larger in humans than in other great apes. But Jane distinguishes between this intellectual advancement and intelligence. An intelligent animal would not destroy its own home. The same intellect that has developed amazing scientific and technical advances, as well as advancement in the arts, has created through greed and cruelty the mess our planet is in. Aggressive behavior has almost certainly been inherited from our distant hominid ancestors. But because humans are endowed with great intellect and language to communicate, they can progress beyond the purely aggressive responses of other animals. The choices we make will be at least partially dependent on the morals we learn as children and on the country and culture we are born in. This makes human aggression worse than that of other species because we may act aggressively, fully aware that what we are doing is morally wrong. She believes only humans are capable of true evil. We can sit down and plan torture and cruelty. But at the same time, she believes humans are the only beings capable of true altruism, self-sacrifice. We have a choice. To choose to be more peaceful and just, we need a new moral code, or perhaps we need to be persuaded to actually apply the golden rule, which seems to be at the core of all religions and most moral philosophical. Head and heart must work together. We must alleviate poverty, reduce the unsustainable lifestyles of the very wealthy, eliminate corruption and support honest leadership, and face up to the problems of growing populations of people and livestock. We must also return to a sense of our interconnectedness with all of nature, a connectedness that indigenous peoples honored and that Unitarians hold as one of our basic principles. Reason for hope number 2, the resilience of nature. To illustrate this point, Jane tells the story of the survivor tree. A month after the fall of the Twin Towers on 9/11, a cleanup worker found the remains of a calorie pear tree crushed between 2 blocks of cement. All that was left was half a charred, blackened trunk, 1 branch, and broken roots. The worker begged to be allowed to care for the tree in a nursery in the Bronx. Eventually, the tree survived and was planted in the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, where she blooms every spring. There is another survivor tree in Nagasaki that survived the atomic bomb, and though blackened inside, puts out new leaves every year. Other examples are Methuselah and Hannah, date palm trees that were grown from seeds carbon dated as 2,000 years old. Nature has a powerful quality of adaptability, but we can help. There are wonderful stories of species brought back from extinction by careful human nurturing. Not only are we a part of the natural world, but we need it. By protecting ecosystems and rewilding parts of the world, we are protecting our own well-being. Jane is involved in an initiative of a World Economic Forum to plant 1 trillion trees. Now, it will take time and nurturing for those trees to grow tall enough to absorb enough CO2. Planting trees, and even more importantly, protecting grown forests may indeed help save us. Of course, we must also clean the ocean and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There are things that we must do to enhance the resilience of nature. Reason for hope number 3, the power of young people. Jane comments on the saying, "We have not inherited the earth from the ancestors, but borrowed it from our children," by insisting that we have not borrowed it, but stolen it. She further states that it is not just from this generation that we are stealing, but from all future generations. The talks Jane likes giving best are to high school and college students because they are so engaged. But she realizes that her talks with wiggly little children also bear fruit. When she hears their parents relate, that they repeat her very words afterwards. She says, little children were not meant to sit attentively and listen to learn. They learn from exploring their surroundings, but their parents' comments show that they really do hear Jane's message. She tells young people that they can make a difference and inspires them to do so. She shows them that they matter. Her Roots and Shoots programs are indeed inspiring young people around the globe to do seemingly little projects that collectively do make a difference. Of the 4 reasons Jane Goodall still has hope for our planet home, the Roots and Shoots model offers perhaps the most significant opportunity for our church. Perhaps as we seek to reinvigorate a religious education program, we can use this model to empower young people to engage in environmental projects. Perhaps their enthusiasm will also renew our adult efforts towards repairing the damage that we have done. Together, we can make a difference. We could especially read this chapter of the book and investigate the Roots and Shoots program online. Reason for hope number 4, the indomitable human spirit. Jane cites many stories of the indomitable human spirit. Throughout human history, humans have rallied together to defeat a common enemy. She cites stories from World War II in which people showed remarkable courage in the face of terrible violence. Her co-author, Douglas Abrams, raises the question of whether humans can be energized to come together to address the very grim environmental dangers of climate change and the decline of biodiversity. Jane replies that it is this very urgent need that causes her to travel the world in person, or now virtually from her attic, transposed into a recording studio, much like we've done one here in our church, to help people recognize the perils we face and encourage people to each make concrete actions to address the issue. No one person can resolve the problem, but collectively, small changes by millions of people could save us. Well, what do we do here at First Unitarian Church? How can you help? Here are just a few examples of environmental work done by members and friends of this church. The Green Sanctuary Certification Project. Karen Porter worked tirelessly to shepherd this project, which involved many people, too many to name. In some ways, nearly the whole congregation was involved by completing surveys and supporting the various programs. Our Compassion Garden. We have 5 gardeners this year, with just 3 from our church, Jenny Blair Van Hoy, Dave Murray, and Karen Porter. The garden has involved many people over the years, some who gardened just one season, some multiple years. Dave Murray led a group to fence the garden to ward off critters. Karen has live trapped and relocated many groundhogs. And we've also helped our community. Excess food from the garden is donated to Seagate Food Bank. Our solar panel project. Nick Conrad was site manager with able consultation from Randy Ellingson and John Christensen. At last, we are producing renewable electricity right here on our church roof. Yay. Recycling. As part of the Green Sanctuary certification process, the church placed recycling bins in all areas to encourage recycling. We collected other projects for special recycling. The pandemic has hampered our ability to continue some of the collections, and there is currently no free recycling for batteries except for rechargeable ones. But we still recycle styrofoam contributed by members. Jarvis and Marcia Gamble currently are taking the collected styrofoam to Ann Arbor. Our compost pile. Various members contribute to our compost pile. This enriches our soil and reduces need for chemical fertilizers. Sacred Ground certification. We participated in a National Wildlife Foundation pilot project to create rain gardens and native plant gardens in sacred spaces. Stefania Czech was very involved in the Sacred Ground certification, especially with the Rain Garden Project, helping plan, dig, and plant. Jarvis Gamble, Dominic Wilson, Rich Miller, and Karen Porter's husband and son ran the machine to break the clay sod and dig the rain garden. Planting the rain garden involved quite a few people as an after-worship service project. The Native Plants Garden started way back with Louise Banke, who brought plants from her home garden to plant along the front walkway. You can see it as you leave today. Beyond that, Stefania helped with planting and planting native plants in our butterfly garden, which Ginny Blair Van Hoy and Kathy Kranak originally planted as part of an RE Kids class, part of the Green Sanctuary Initiative. Initiatives to remove carbon and methane from the atmosphere. Steve Roberts is active in promoting a carbon tax to give incentive to reducing carbon in the atmosphere. Jim Christensen, who attended our church when visiting his local family and during the pandemic on Zoom and YouTube from Paris, worked right up to his recent death, consulting with a group in California to install methane scrubbers on ships for wide-scale removal of methane from the atmosphere. As a greenhouse gas, methane is 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. I do not mean to leave anybody out, so please, if I've left a project out that you work on, post your efforts to our church Facebook group so that others may be encouraged to help or start another project. I also invite you all to stroll through our grounds after the service to view our efforts. If you have been suffering from eco-depression, Jane gives us a framework for hope. Dedicated individuals and small groups can collectively help alleviate the damage we have caused to our planet. Won't you consider joining an existing project or starting one of your own? Perhaps you would like to start a Roots and Shoots project to engage our young people. Together, we can make a difference. May it be so.
Thank you, Judy. It's time for our offering. We are not passing a basket or a plate, but instead we have a basket in the entryway in the lobby where you can leave your donation on the way out of the sanctuary. And for you watching on YouTube, you can go to our website, uutoledo.org, and follow the giving instructions there in order to be able to give. Or send us a check to 3205 Glendale Avenue, Toledo 43614. All of those are ways to give. And I have these words from Brandick L. Lovely. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now keepers of the dream.
Coming soon, join us in Spiritual Adventures next week for a presentation on the history of Mother's Day. Included will be cultural connections made between the holiday and various countries. Come learn the meaning of motherhood across the globe. The host will be Jenny Washing. On Sunday, May 8th, David Strickler will be called Hands on the Plow, which is about the many iterations of the spiritual that were used in civil rights action in the 50s and
on YouTube and live and in person here. And finally, we invite you just after the service to attend our coffee hour social time, which is in Fellowship Hall, which is just down the hallway and to your left. So we look forward to seeing you there. Our closing words, inspired by Dr. Rebecca Parker, are written by Maureen Killeran. Words for hard times. Or how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected, each day act so you may be a little more whole.
as we extinguish the flame of the chalice, may we kindle the flame of hope in our hearts to encourage us to go out and make a difference in the care of our planet home.